Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. In this video, I'll show you everything you need to know to set up your first website using Elementor on WordPress. So this is actually very easy to use, very powerful, and you have lots of options. I'll show you this one in a second. And this is actually the website we will be building in this video. Very easy to do, very powerful. And there is a free version as well as a paid version. So no matter who you are, no matter what your skill level is, no matter what your budget is, Elementor is a great way to build your website on WordPress. And like I said, you have tons and tons of options that you could utilize all of them if you want a very powerful and diverse website, or you could just use the fundamentals and have a very easy website setup. No matter what, it's easy to do. You can build your website in a matter of minutes or hours, depending on how much information you want on there. And you can do things all like this. Now, in this video, I'll show you how to set up WordPress. First of all, how to get set up and have Elementor set up with WordPress. Then I'll show you actually how you can either import an entire website, so you have a full website theme that you just have to go and type in your own information, add your own images. But other than that, it's a turnkey situation to have a full website really in a matter of minutes. Or I'll also show you how to set up an entire page just from scratch using Elementor. So here's an example of the page we will be building in this video. And on top of that, I'll be showing you how to set up templates and how to set up pop-ups on your website. So looking at this page here, we'll talk about adding a title. We'll talk about adding, images and text and buttons. These are the fundamentals. We'll also talk about having backgrounds on different sections and different little borders on the bottom. Then we can talk about adding some cool little things. Maybe if you want to have tabs that show different things, different text ideas, different pictures. We'll talk about forms, how to have a nice little parallax effect in the background behind your forms, and how to actually redirect those forms. So when somebody types in their information, it comes to you as an email. And on top of that, you can choose a secondary action where when they hit send, maybe it redirects them to another page on your website, for example. We'll talk about adding cool things like this little countdown timer, as well as the cool little thing down here, which is going to be the testimonial slideshow, where you see different people might be saying different things about your website. It's a great way if you're trying to sell things or otherwise show any kind of social validation. Very popular way to improve your website. And then down here, I'll be showing you, of course, this is just kind of a filler right there, a lot of dummy text. And then you can add other things such as maybe a map. And something I really like about this one in particular is that you can go and not only can we link to other pages within our website or out of our website, for example, but we could also go and link within the website down on the same page to an anchor, as you see right here. So clicking on that brings us down to an anchor. I'll show you how to do that in this video. And something else to note is this video, I'm going to try to move at a pretty consistent pace throughout the video. If that's too fast for you, YouTube has a really cool feature where you can actually go and play this back at a slightly slower pace. So 0.5, 0.75, whatever you need to do. You can pause it. You can work with me alongside and just, hit play when you're ready to go to the next step. Or if I'm moving too slow for you, likewise, you could speed up this video. Now, with that being said, the other thing I want to show you guys is how to set up a template for a post. So when you have a post, for example, if we just go and check out maybe like this post right here, there's a template in the background. All of this is showing up on all of my posts. So all I had to do was go down and type in the title and then paste in the information, all the text I wanted in here, and it automatically added things like this to my website, to this post in particular. And then lastly, I'll show you how to get a pop-up that can be triggered from clicking or scrolling or moving your mouse anywhere on the screen. And the pop-up can do really whatever you want. It could be an email campaign, it could be a download, it could be trying to capture, offer a new product, a discount, really lots of options you have there. So we'll talk about all of that in this video. Alright, so the first thing we want to do is get started with WordPress, and so you can go down and click on the link in the top of the description, or we can go up to santrelmedia.com/BlueHost. BlueHost is one that I recommend. Admittedly, this is an affiliate link, just a quick disclaimer, just to help keep these tutorials free, and it costs absolutely nothing extra to you. Now, this right here says $3.95 per month. I'll show you how you can actually get that for even cheaper yet. So if we go to choose plan, they give us a couple options here, and you can read into these if you would like. There's Choice Plus is the one they recommend. Of course they do. It's the most expensive one. I would generally recommend if you're getting started off. The cheapest one is probably sufficient for most people unless you need a lot of space on your website. So we are going to select this one. It's $3.95 per month. I will show you how you can get it for even $2.95 per month. And now we want to choose a new domain. Now, the options here, we can either make a domain and we can get a new one, or we can transfer one that we already have. So I'm going to say Santrel Media Example Site.com and click next. And it is available. And now they bring you to this page where you can either sign in with Google or set up your account information down here. And before I type in any of that, I want to point down here to the package information and the package extras. And so starting off with the account plan, you have a couple options here. You can get 12 months, which is $5.95 per month. You can go 3 years, is going to be the cheapest at $3.95 per month. And that's generally what I would recommend if you can afford it. It's only like, it's going to be $140, but you actually have a really cool way you can reduce that by $1 per month. If you just go up here and say, oh, we're going to exit out, we really don't like this. And then, oh, what's that? We get some savings we can claim. All right, so now it's $265 per month. So now let's claim those savings. Click Claim Savings. It'll reload this page. And now it is going to tell us that if we want to get 36 months, it's $265 per month. So now it's $95. You pay $100 and you have 3 years of a website. Honestly, that's a pretty good deal. I really have been looking around for other cheaper options, and BlueHost is definitely one of the cheapest. Now, up top, we can go and add in our information. So I'm going to do that right now. And then let's go down here, and we have some package extras, and within the package extras we can add some different things. So domain privacy is something that I highly recommend you get. This is essentially going to protect your information from anybody out there who's trying to find out, anyone can go to look up your domain and find out the address, the phone number, and the name associated with the owner of that domain. Now what this does is it hides your name from that, and they put something else there. And so it costs you $1 per month. For me, that's worth it. CodeGuard Basic, something I'm not going to get right now on this one. I'm not going to get the SEO tools on this one. I already have Microsoft 365, and I'm not going to get SiteLock Security. Although all of these things are things you should consider getting if you are thinking about, read them over yourself and more information. But for the purposes of this tutorial, I don't need to get those, so I'm going to just omit those right now. Now we can add the credit card information. I'm going to jump back right when we have that completed. All right, then it brings us to this page where we can create our account. So I'm going to just add in my information there and say I agree to their privacy policy. Obviously read them first, and then we can create our account. And it brings us to right here where we can go and log in with the password that we have based on our domain. And so we can go and click login right now. And now I generally recommend skipping all of this stuff. They just want to help you get set up and give you a whole bunch of plugins, but you're watching this video and that's my job. So skip this step. I will show you what you need to get, and it brings you over here so you can either launch my site or go to WordPress. What we want to do is go to WordPress, and it'll bring you over to essentially yourdomain.com/WP-admin. All right, so then it brings us to this page, and you'll see on the left side a whole bunch of things. And honestly, we don't need like insights and opt-in monster, WordPress forms, all these little plugins that BlueHost just gave us. We don't need those, so we can easily get rid of them by going down to plugins. So we'll click on plugins. Might take a second because this is still kind of a new website here. And if you scroll down with the plugins, first of all, they give you all these notifications. Get rid of all of those. Get rid of them, go away. I don't want to talk to you, Jetpack. And then we can actually go and start getting rid of these plugins. So highlight or select all the ones that we don't need, which I'm going to keep the BlueHost one, but for the most part, I'm going to get rid of everything else. So then go to bulk actions, deactivate these, click apply, and then it'll get rid of them. And then we can actually go and delete them as well. Okay, so we deactivated them, and now we can go and select them again. And so now we can go and delete them. All right, and then we're finally set up here with just a normal WordPress dashboard without anything on there. Now, the next thing we want to do is actually start getting the plugins that we really do need, as well as the themes we need. So let's go into Appearance, and then you'll see Themes. So click on Themes, and there are a lot of themes you can choose from. One that I recommend, if we open a new tab and go to santrelmedia.com/Astra, it'll bring you to this theme right here, which you can download for WordPress. It's very easy to do, and you can either get a free version or there is also a paid version as well. So if we click download now, it'll download it, and we can choose if we want either one of these that we can pay for, the paid versions, or we can actually just get the free one as well. So if you want these, click Get Started for Astra Pro, or if you want the free one, you can just click on WordPress.org themes, and we can search for Astra. Of course, there's so many other themes as well. If you want those, go for that. But we'll click install, which with whatever theme you choose that you want, Astra, just click install. And then once it's installed, we click activate. Ready to use dozens of starter templates. So you can do that, or you can actually go down to Astra options, and that same link will be showing up here. I'll show you guys that just in case this is not showing up for you. So if we go and click on Astra options, there we go. So Astra options, and you can click install importer plugin, and that's going to allow you to import an entire, a whole site template right away very easily. So let's close out of the tabs we don't need on the top. And then right here, it says select which page builder you want if we're installing an entire website. And because we want to use Elementor, we are actually going to have to get Elementor first. So in a new tab, again, santrelmedia.com/Elementor. And again, Elementor is really great because there is a free version as well as a paid version. And so that's why I like to start off with the paid one right away, because there's a lot of stuff you can do with that. But, you know, if you have a tighter budget, the free one definitely still works. So do we have a WordPress website? Yes, we do. So let's say continue and click on Elementor Pro. It should be popping up right there in my account. So we'll click on that, and they have a couple different pricing options, and I'll explain those just as soon as they load here. But really, I usually just go with the cheapest one, the personal site, because we're only doing one website here, so one makes sense. $49 a year, that's like, what, about $4 a month-ish? So that's like the price of like a Big Mac every month about. So for the price of one Big Mac per month, you get quite a bit of extra capability on your website. So let's go to buy now. All right, so that'll bring you to this page, and what you want to do is actually highlight your key right here. So it gives you a license key. So highlight it, right click, select copy. And then you click on this link right here that says Elementor-Pro. And then a whole bunch of numbers, and that's going to be the latest version. So click on that, it'll download, and don't bother opening that, but click on the little icon that says show in folder so you can find out where it's downloaded. It probably should just be in your downloads, but you never know where some things are being saved. And so then go over to the previous page, the WordPress dashboard, and what we want to do is first we want to add Elementor free, and then we have to add Elementor Pro. It's kind of weird that they're almost two different things here. They merge together and become one, but let's say Elementor. So we go to add a new plugin, search for Elementor, search for Elementor, and it should pop up as the first one. So 5 million plus active installations, say install now, and then once that installs, should take about a minute or two, and then we can click on activate. So it's installed, let's click on activate. All right, there we go. And so now what we want to do is actually go on down to plugins. So click on add a new plugin. So add new plugin. And this time we're not going to search for one, we're going to upload a plugin. So we're going to choose a file, and this one is going to be from our downloads. You'll see it's right there, and so then click install now, and we should be set up with Elementor. So we're going to activate this one, click on activate plugin, and then that brings you to your plugins page, and the big bold text right there says connect and activate. So what we want to do is actually go and remember we copied that license key. We're going to have to click activate here. So it's connected to the account that's signed in. Let's say activate. And I always like to copy the key just in case, but usually it just connects to your account very easily because your browser just knows that you're signed into both, and it makes life a lot easier. So there we go. We are active. We have the license all set up. We have Elementor Pro, and now we're actually ready to go and start making some pages. Let's go up to the top and let's actually make a new page now. So if we go to pages, I'm going to make a press contact page today. So we'll go to add new, and let's title this one press contact. And you'll see on the right side we have a couple things for WordPress editing, and obviously in the middle we have our WordPress editor. You might have used this before, and honestly it kind of sucks, especially in comparison to the Elementor editor, just because it's really clunky and annoying to use. You have a couple options on the right, but it's just really not easy to use. So Elementor is obviously a great choice. That's why you're watching this video. Let's go up and click on the blue button right there for edit with Elementor, and let's make this press contact page. And you'll see that when we get here, a different layout, very different from what we saw in the WordPress editor. We have a lot of things on the left, and I think it's pretty intuitive that a lot of these are going to be, you'll drag and drop them into here. But let's look at the right side first. This is what our website is actually going to look like. So you're building in real time here. And on the right side, you can see this little dotted line that outlines a section. And the way this is really being built is in a section layout. So you create one section and put in text and images, whatever you want. Then you can create another section, and the differences between the sections would be the backgrounds you put in there, or really the layout that you have. You can separate it into sections, and I typically have maybe 3 sections per window, maybe 2.5 that are shown on the screen. And of course your website could be as long as you want. You could have it 25 sections long if you wanted. Generally, people don't go more than like 6 or 7 though. So you'll see with this little dotted line, we can go and add something from Envato Elements. Envato is another plugin. I have it on this website, obviously. And so you can either import an entire page, which I'm not going to be doing right now, but you could do that. or you can import an entire block. So these little sections, you can import a whole section that's going to be maybe like a map, for example. And they have some really cool layouts that really make your life a lot easier and save a lot of time. But this video is not a tutorial for Envato. This is for Elementor. So we're going to build this page from scratch. And so the other options you have right here, you can add a template. And so if you have any block templates that you saved in the past, and I'll show you how to do that, you could have the ones that you saved in My Templates, or you can look at some that Elementor already has for you. So you can go and say, maybe I want an FAQ block. So you can go and check out an FAQ block. They have a lot of options. This little countdown timer. It actually kind of looks like a Nike website for some reason. But anyway, you get a lot of options here that you can do. Now, like I said, building this page from scratch, let's go and click the plus icon, and you'll see that you have a couple options here with how your website is going to be laid out in this section. So you can have a single pane right here. You can have multi-columns. And another thing to note is like this and this and this and this and this. These are all basically the same, and it's really easy to rearrange the width of these. So I'm not exactly sure why they have such differences here, like this one and this one. Really don't seem like they provide any new value. But let's go and add in, just for the top, we're going to add in this one, and let's add one below that, maybe just like a three column in this section. So you'll see right here, if you just highlight over or just hover right over the dotted line, you can click and drag it over to wherever you want. And so click and drag it. Now we have a wider center, and the other ones, you can see it shows you the pixel count right there, so or percent. So if we get it to like 15%, slide it over to 15%. It's definitely not the most convenient to do it this way, but let's see if we can get to 15. Okay, close enough. And then on this side, let's go to 15 as well, so that it's even on both sides. And we got 15. Now for the top one, let's go and add a title here. So this is going to be the press contact page. Let's have press contact show up at the top. So to get here, click on the little grid icon on the top right, click on header, and drag it over to the top block. And for this, let's call it press contact. And now you'll notice that, we don't want that on the left. It really doesn't look good so far. So let's go and highlight that. Let's make it an H1. So first of all, the text editor here, not only do we have the content right there, but we can also change a lot about that. So this is the header. It's a primary header. So let's make it H1. And of course, if we look at the text, we can actually have, you'll notice this little thing pops up on the right side. This little stack of coins is what it looks like. These are dynamic tags that you can have, and this is really not going to be useful on this page, but if you are making a template, or if you're making something that's going to be saved as a template, you might want something that's like the post date. So if you're making a template for your blog articles, maybe you want to have a title, and below that the release date or something. Instead of typing that in every single time, you could have something that is dynamic and automatically updates. So that's what these are on the right side. We can link this out if we want this text to be a link to either another page on the website, or a URL, or an anchor, really whatever we want. I'll show you that later on in the video. Now the size of this we can change. Let's make this extra large. We want a really big title on the top, and so far that looks really bad. So we want to go over to, actually let's make it in the center, another thing, looking a little better. And now let's go over to the style. And so with the style, you can change the color of this text. You can change the typography. I normally don't do that. I don't really add shadows. I don't do anything else here, except maybe I'm going to make this white, and I'll show you why. We're going to change the background of this section in a minute. So I'm going to make the text white for now. And then let's go over to advanced. And here you can add padding above and below that if we want to add a little bit of margin or padding. So margin and padding are going to be essentially above and below this. I'll come back to that in 1 second, but let's change the background of this block. So let's click on the 3 dots for editing this section. And we have right here a couple options. We can change the width of it if we want this to be stretched to the full width. So let's go and stretch it to full width. That way it'll go all the way across the screen. You won't have any white on either side. And I'm not going to change anything else about this. You can change the height. You can make it, for example, fit to screen. It's going to be a very large thing. So depending on the screen, it'll show up like that. For the most part, I don't generally do that. I just leave it as default. And then you can change the height by adding things like, spacers above and below, or add some margin. And like I said, I'll show you all of this in a second. So now let's go over to style, and let's start making this look a little better. Now, for the background, let's go to normal. Make sure you're not on hover. I'm going to go to normal, and let's change the background to a gradient. And maybe the gradient, we want to start with a color. How about this color? This is one that I have saved. And then the second color, let's use as this color, and let's make these, how about 23, 23, and then this one should be maybe 83, And let's change this to 230. So there we go. Now it's looking a little bit better, but let's make that, like I said, a lot bigger. So let's go back and click on press contact, or you can click on the little pencil icon on the top. And if we go over to advanced, this is where we can edit the margins. I wanted to change that background first so you guys could see what the margins actually do here. So first of all, if you click on it, you could edit and you can make it negative. You could even, bring it down and it tightens in like that. Eventually it starts cutting off the text. So if things are ever a little too far apart, you could always just do that as kind of a backup thing. I generally don't recommend using negative margins, but it is an option that you could potentially do. Now, likewise, we could add a little bit of positive margin here. So let's add maybe like 10, for example. But we could also add padding if we wanted some more space above or below that. So if we added like 10 for padding, again, you'll see we have more space above and below. And actually on the right and left side as well. So you see that right here, the box is actually in a little bit. Now, if we don't want that, right here, we have the little lock icon that links these values together. Let's make the right and left 0. I really don't want anything on the right or left because I just want this to be really nice and centered. So not worrying about anything being too tight there. And let's do that. So now we have it going across the entire page and it's in the center, but it's still a little bit short on the top and bottom. So we could either add more margin or more padding, or another option that I typically like to do for adding a large space above or below is just to add literally a spacer. So click on the little the grid icon on the top and click on spacer. Let's drag one above and let's drag another one below. So we're going to go and add a spacer below. So something like that. I think that honestly looks pretty good. We can make that a little bit of a larger spacer, maybe 75 on the top, maybe 75 on the bottom. 75. Okay, so now we're actually getting somewhere. Press contact in the middle. So that's the title of this page. All right, so now it's looking a little bit better, but let's make this kind of a less boxy border on the bottom. So if we click on the icon on the top of this section, let's actually edit that to do something else. So let's go down and we could either add maybe an image, but I don't think an image is going to look good here. Let's go and add a border or a shape divider. A shape divider on the bottom I think would look good. So this is going to add something down here to make it a little more, just to kind of break up that edge a little bit. So let's go and make this, you have like mountains, that's on the top. Oops, so top and bottom. I don't think we want one on the top. Let's add this on the bottom. And so you have like mountains. I don't really like that. I think maybe something, let's try these out. Waves brush, maybe that one. Maybe that one looks good. Maybe waves pattern. No, I don't like that one. So you have a lot of things to choose from here, and you can really just go through these and figure out which one looks best. So actually, let's go with mountains, but let's change it so it looks a little better than this. So we have the height, which we can change. You'll see here, you can make it really tall mountains or really shallow ones. So maybe something like that, and then we can change the width of it, which will kind of stretch it out. So I think something like that, maybe like that might look okay. I think that looks pretty good actually. So let's do that now. With this, I think it's still a little bit too tall. Okay, so that's a little bit of a better border on the bottom. All right, so I got rid of the 3-column section below this one, but now let's actually go and add another section. So I think maybe like a 2-column one would be great. If we go to add new and we select 2-column, and then maybe we want to slide this over so it's not quite in the center, so maybe right there. And maybe we want a picture on the left and maybe some paragraph on the right. So let's go and on the right side, let's add the text editor. It looks like I missed. Let's go and do that right there. So text editor, let's just copy this and then add a whole bunch more dummy text. So we have a small paragraph there. Maybe that's like about us or something, saying Santrel Media is whatever. And then on the left, let's go ahead and click on this and we want to add an image. So click and drag the image. And this image, we have some options here. So we can either change the image size, as you see right there. And so you can make it smaller or larger. And we can change the alignment of it. That's not important here because it's in the middle. And we can add a caption. We can add a link to this if we want this image to actually redirect to either the media file itself or to maybe a custom URL, for example. But in this case, I'm actually not going to link it out. Let's just click on the little image icon and make it maybe like a picture of me, for example. Maybe it's going to be about me. And so on the right side, we have a large void on the bottom. I think a good thing to do right there would maybe be to add a button. Maybe a button would be something that we'd like to have here. So let's go and add a button. So if you click and drag that, you can put it above or below the image, or you'll see you can put it above or below the text. You cannot put it between them because that's not how we have this section laid out. So let's put it below the text. So right there, obviously that button looks way too small and I really don't like what it's doing. So let's change the design of this button. So let's first say that we want the button to be just default and we want it to say, how about read more about us. And so maybe that's going to link to the About Us page. So we can change the link here to About Us, and it should, just About. So we can link it to the About page, or you can, of course, type in the entire link yourself as well. And we can make this button small or extra large. I think larger is going to be better for this button. And actually, if we slide this over, that image on the left should be a little smaller. There we go. So that looks a little bit better. And then this button, I think it should be in the middle. So let's go and center that button. And we can make it extra large. Like I said, we can change it. If we want an icon, we can check out the icon library. And if we want to have maybe like a read more, add an arrow, for example, if you want to insert that. That's not really something that I typically use a lot. I don't usually use icons and buttons, but maybe you want that here. You can add some more icon spacing. So if you want a little bit more space between the icon and the words, you can change that. And then if we go over to style, let's change the color of this to match the theme of the website. So we can change the text color to white, which it already is. And we can change the background color of the button to the blue that we have on this website. Now, let's just say when somebody's hovering over the button, we want it to be a little different. So let's go to hover. And we can actually change it so that when they're hovering, the background color becomes this color down here. So when someone hovers, it does that. I think that looks a little bit better. So let's just leave it as it is right there. So that's just normal and hover. That's how you change that with the button. You can change the typography again and the text shadow. I'm not going to do that right now. I think it looks pretty good. And then maybe we don't really like the sharp edges here. We've already been rounding off like up here, for example. Let's round off the edges on this button. So a radius, let's add a radius of 10. Now maybe 15. Let's add a radius of 15 on this button. And then we could also add some padding on here. So if we click on padding and we add, we could either add a little bit more padding, which starts down at 0, but we can make the button bigger. So if we want to add, let's make it really wide. So let's undo this. So we want to actually, first of all, make it all like 15. So top, bottom, left, right. And then if we click the unlink, so by default, it just kind of does it on its own. It figures out how big the button should be. But now let's make it a little bit wider. So on the right side, let's make it like 30. And then on the left side, let's also make it 30. So now we have a button that's, probably a better size, I think. It looks pretty good. And so you can change it all right there. Now, if we go to advanced, there's really not a whole lot that I want to talk about here. This is just margin and stuff like that, padding above and below this little section. But because it looks really, pretty good right now, I think that's probably fine. And then one more thing, I realized that I probably do want this to be left aligned, so I'm going to go back to style and add it as a left aligned button. All right, now below that, maybe we want to add a form, because maybe the big purpose of the press contact form is to get people to reach out to us. So let's click on the plus icon. Let's click on just a blank section right here. And now, so we're getting a little more advanced here with the form, but let's go back and see what other things we have to add. So we can add like a header if we want. So we can have maybe a contact us thing right here. We could add more images, videos, icons, Google Maps, spacers, a lot of premium stuff. So this is actually what we get into the Elementor Pro. You're really going to need that to get this. But if you don't have Elementor Pro, you can just skip a couple minutes ahead in the video and you'll be able to add, we'll get back to some more of this stuff in a second. So let's go and add the form. So click and drag that over. And the form is going to be showing up very ugly at first. I really don't like how that looks at all. So maybe instead we want to, let's go through and edit this. So let's say we don't want the labels above it. So the labels are like right here. It says name, email above it. So let's get rid of that. We don't want that. And then it's also kind of really close to this. So let's go to this one and add a little bit of a margin on that. So let's add that section. Let's give it the top and bottom. Let's give it another like 25. Just a little bit of extra margin on this block. So back to this one. All right, so let's first change what we actually have here. So first we're going to say, maybe we want to split up first and last name. So maybe this is going to be, so if you just click on it, it opens up little options down here. There's advanced settings as well. We're just going to do basic content settings first. So this is going to be, this one can be text if we want. So it's going to be either name. So let's say this is just first name. And here it's going to be first name, and then for label we're just going to say first underscore name. And so this is going to be not required, and we can make the column width full, or we can make it less if we want to make it like 50%, for example. You'll see it's now half as wide. So that could be the first one. The second one, maybe we can say last name. So because we already have email, let's go and add another item. It's going to show up down here. So click and drag it up to right below first name, and we are going to change this one to last name. So again, it's text, and then last name. So last name, that's where we're going to label it, and then the placeholder, last name. and this one is below, but we want it to be on the right side here. So let's go and change it to 50%. So there we go. First name, last name, those are lined up properly now. And then we have email below that, and we have message. So if we go to email, maybe email is going to show them. So right here we have email, but of course you could have a lot of other things. So let's say placeholder, email, yes. Then we can change the input size to larger if we want. I think that takes up too much space. Let's make it small. I think small looks a little bit better. And if we think that overall this is really weirdly wide, so I think what I want to do is kind of smush this whole thing in a little bit towards the middle. So if we go over to advanced, we can change the margins on this section again. And so let's go to margin, or padding actually, and let's change the right padding to maybe like 50 on the right side, 50 on the left side. So it looks a little bit better. Maybe like 150 would be better yet. So 150, 150. All right, so I think that looks a little better, a little bit more of a middle contact us thing right there. And let's add a little bit of above and below. So let's add 50 above that, or 50 below and 50 above. So now we have our contact form a little bit more in the middle. And let's change how this looks. It still looks really bad. So we can go down here, and so obviously we have our forms. We're all labeled. Let's change the name of this to press contact form. You don't need to use underscores. It's something that I just typically do. Then we can go to buttons. And so the button right here is the send button. And we can change the size of that from small to large. If we want it to be maybe a little bigger, that might look a little better. And we can change the alignment. So leave it in the middle. We can leave it the full width of it, so it's justified as wide as possible. We can make it a next button if we want. Previous button, that's not going to be important for this really. We just want the send button. And we can add an icon if we want. So currently, no icon. I don't think that's really important. So now looking at actions after submit, if you go down here and you click on that, you have a couple of things that pop up. So you can connect it to MailChimp, or a lot of other things, GetResponse, Discord, Slack, like tons of options. I'm just going to say maybe we want a redirect. So we want an email and a redirect. So when they fill it out, they click submit, it's going to send that email with all these fields to me. And then also it's going to have them redirected to another page. You'll notice when I did that, redirect showed up right here. So these are the actions after submit, the email and the redirect. So let's go to email first. And so we wanted to send to yes to me. And the subject's going to be new message from Santrel Media. Now how about press contact inquiry, something like that. And we want maybe all the fields to be sent. So everything in here is going to be sent to me. And then it's going to be from the email, is going to be from email at santrelmedia.com, Santrel Media, and that's what it's going to be. And we can copy other people if we want. And the metadata, we can have the time and the date, the page URL, stuff like that. So that's how it's going to be. Your contact form is going to send stuff to you that they fill out. Now, the redirect is going to send them to maybe another page. So maybe we want to send them over to the About page after they do this. So we can go and check out About, and it's not popping up below there. So let's go to HTTPS. How about your WordPress? Just send them to the WordPress page. I don't know. Just for an example to show you what this is going to do. So then we can go down and change the additional options. But for the most part, that's what we want to do for the actual technical part of what this form is doing. Now, if we go to style, we can make it start to look a lot better. Now we can change the columns gap if we want a little more gap between them in the middle. Maybe that looks good. The rows gap, we want a little bit more between that as well. I don't think we necessarily need that. I think I like it a little tighter. Then we can change the label spacing. So if we want the labels to have any more space, that's not really what I worry about too much. And the typography of the labels, obviously we don't have labels on there, so it's going to be inside the field instead. So if we go to field, you can change the typography of the field to maybe just like black, might be a little more visible. And then maybe we want to make it slightly larger, so we can change the size of it, maybe like that, for example. I don't know. I'm going to undo this, so Control Z. I'm going to leave it with default for now. And then the background color right now, I believe, is white. So we're going to leave it as white. And actually, I realized that this gap and this gap looks really bad. So let's go back to form and change those gaps. So the spacing is going to be maybe a little bit larger. So maybe make them both like 15. All right, so now if we go back down to field, we can actually change the border radius. So if we make it like maybe 12, for example, you get a little bit of a radius on all these. And you'll notice, again, they are all the same radius, unless we unlink them, which I really wouldn't recommend. I really see no value in doing that here. So if we go down to buttons, again, we can add a radius on this and also change the color, because I think that looks pretty bad right now. So the background color of the button, let's make that the blue, just like we have up there. And maybe the text color is going to be white. And then when they hover, we can make it so the background color turns into that blue, again, the lighter blue. And we can have the text color show up again as white. So if we hover over it, there we go. And now let's add a border radius on this as well, make it 15. And so it's a little bit more consistent on this page. All right, now this is looking pretty decent right now, but let's see something cool that we can do here is actually changing the background of this section. So if we go to edit the section, we can go to style, and let's actually add in the background, click on classic. Let's add an image back there. So if we click on an image, let's use this Philly nightscape, and it's going to look like that. Now, if you want to add an image behind a section, you have a couple options with where you want it to be positioned. So for this, I'm going to say center, center. I think that looks pretty decent. And we can change the size of it if we want. By default, I think that looks fine. And we can add a couple other things, so like the scrolling effect, the motion effects. It's not really what I'm going to do right now. So instead, we can actually go down to the background overlay. So if we go down to background overlay, we can change maybe something on top of this. So let's go and add like maybe a gradient on top of this. So maybe we'll have, again, the same two colors. So maybe this color and the other color would be the darker one. Maybe that's our gradient. So you see it looks like that. But you can change like the location of the gradient. So let's bring that back a little bit, bring that forward. And let's change the opacity again. So maybe it's a little bit lighter or a little bit, I think darker looks a little better. So that's what we can do right there. Now, something else is you can actually change when you're scrolling how that's going to look. To give it a really cool scrolling effect, we can actually go to right here, the attachment, and change it from scroll to fixed. And that way, as you scroll, it'll stay in place. So you can see you can scroll through that image. I think that looks pretty cool. And it might be a little bit more appealing for some people. So, all right, so now let's add maybe a little bit of space above and below this form just to make it pop out a little more. So click on the pencil icon, go back to advanced. I think you guys know how to do this by now. And we're going to change the padding on the bottom to 100 and the padding on the top to 100 as well. And all right, now that we have this background, I think the send button probably should be outlined a little bit better. So let's click on the pencil icon for this, and we can go over to the style. We can go down to buttons, and we can actually add an outline on there as well. So I believe we should be able to say border type. We want a solid border, and the border could be white. Maybe that looks fine. Honestly, it makes it pop out well enough. I don't really care what it looks like for the purposes of this video, but I think that's going to be a decent idea right there. Now, maybe we want something between these two. So if we want to add another section, something cool we can do, again, let's go and add a section. And I should have pointed this out before. Let's add just a regular section here. And you can actually click and drag these sections to rearrange them however you want. So if we want this one down below the blank one, we can click on the 6 dots and drag it down below that. And you'll see right there, it's going to be showing up. It looks like I didn't get it there. So let's click and drag this one up above it. So we can put the section right there. And it shows up. And so now in this section, we could add, some other things. So let's go and check out what else we can add on this page. So far we've got our title, we've got our little bit of about us, a button that works and does stuff. We have our contact form with a really cool background that scrolls. And maybe in this next section, we want to add portfolio, for example. So let's go and add, just to see what that looks like. Maybe we can change that, see what else we have as well. Maybe a testimonial carousel would be good. So portfolio is going to be a whole bunch of different articles. A lot of these don't have a featured image, but I don't really like that. So let's right click on this and say delete. So we can delete things within a section very easily by right clicking on the pencil icon and choosing delete. So besides portfolio, maybe we want, like I said, testimonials would be a good one. Maybe we could add that. We could add a gallery. We could add a countdown. I don't know really. I'll show you how to do a countdown in a second. I think countdown might be kind of cool. Actually, I think this one's pretty cool as well. Let's go and add some tabs. So we'll add tabs, and then within tabs, you can add really whatever content you want. So within tab 1, we're going to add just whatever. This text is fine. Maybe tab 2, you can add some other text. And so this would be a cool way that if you want to have maybe like, why are you contacting us? And so for tab 1, you could say about sponsorships. Maybe this one could be about product reviews, and maybe we want another tab that's going to be about, how about like about maybe like guest posting, right? Something like that. And we could have some content in each of these that would just be whatever we want. So that way when people are looking at this, they can easily just go through and see, let's go and they can have, you know, enough stuff that they're able to learn about this. So maybe our website's going to look like this, and they can say, oh, I really care about guest posting, or I care about other things. We can go to style, and we can change the look of this as well. So if we really want to change the border, the background, stuff like that, you can change pretty easily. And of course we can go to advanced as well and change what we had on the other one before. So this is our website so far, the press contact page. Now something to note is that we didn't actually save this yet. So let's go and make sure that this is saved as a draft. So save. And now let's check this out and see what it looks like maybe on a tablet, for example. So if we click on responsive mode here, we can see what it's going to look like on a tablet. So on a tablet, still looks pretty good. I think that still looks pretty decent. The button's in kind of a weird spot, so I'd probably touch that up a bit. And otherwise, actually you could say, you know what, maybe when we're on a tablet mode, maybe this right here, I don't want this button to be shown. So maybe, for example, if it's just really out of place and you just wish it wasn't there, you can go to that button. So if we click on the pencil icon to edit, we can go over to advanced. And this is a really, really important thing that some people, you know, typically overlook and forget that you can even do. So if you go down to responsive, you can actually hide it on different things. So hide it on a tablet, you could hide it on mobile. And that way the tablet website is going to look like this and the button won't be there. So that way your website's still going to look great on any device being used. So let's go over and check what it looks like on mobile. Now remember, I did hide that, so that button is no longer there. But you know what? Maybe it does look good on mobile. Let's go and re-add that to mobile. So that's how you can really add things that are really specific to only showing up on desktop or tablet or mobile or whatever else you want. So this right here, you know, it still works on mobile as well. But maybe this contact form just really does not look good there. So we could change that and hide this one from mobile. So if we go and click on that, go to advanced, go to responsive, and let's just hide it on mobile. That way our site looks just fine on any device that you want. So let's go back to desktop and let's actually preview this in a full mode right now. So if we click on preview changes, it'll open a new tab. And so we can see here, this is what the website is going to look like. And I did actually stretch this to full width, and you'll see why I think that does look a lot better. So you wouldn't have white on the left or right. So instead you have, it goes all the way across, and I think it looks a lot better. Now this doesn't scroll all the way up to the top of the buildings because we don't have anything below. So let's continue to populate this page. All right, so now let's go and add something down below. And I think, again, we can add some basic stuff if you want to add more content. But I think it's kind of cool to add some of the pro contents right now. So if you have Elementor Pro, maybe we want a testimonial carousel. Maybe below that or above that, maybe we want a timer. And it looks like it's a little slow just for the time being. Let's go back and add a timer above that. So scroll down a little bit, add a countdown to right above this. And so that way we'll have a countdown until something happens. But we want to know what's going to happen, so let's add a header just above that. And so maybe this is going to be countdown next YouTube video release. And it's going to be in 29 days. Honestly, sometimes it feels like that's how long it is between videos. But anyway, we'll go to style. We can change the background of this as well. So background color, maybe we want it to be blue. I think that looks better with the website. Testimonials, we can go and click edit for this. And these testimonials, you know, we could change item 1, 2, and 3. So item number 1, we can change what this person says. We can give them a nice little image. So maybe the image is going to be, let's use a picture of Nate there. Maybe Nate's a testimonial. Obviously wouldn't make sense, but see right there, John Doe, CEO. So we can change the name of them. So let's say Nate O'Brien. And you can say, I absolutely love cheeseburgers. Right, so there we go. We have our first testimonial, and it's going to swipe through these so you have a little picture of them. That's a really tiny picture, and you can change like the name and stuff like that. And so, of course, you can look at the images. You can have the images stacked if you wanted, so it's going to be a little bigger. You can have the images above the whole thing. You can really put them wherever you want. Image left. Maybe image left is going to be best, and we can actually change like a lot of things like that. So maybe bubble if we want it to be more like a text, and let's actually make this more in line like it was. And then of course we can have slides, scroll if we want, stuff like that. You can change a lot of stuff. You get the idea of how you can change this one, and there's additional options as well. But so far, this is what our website is looking at. Now, of course, there are other things. I'm not going to go through everything you can add on this website because, of course, you can look and see tons and tons of different things. And if you guys want, leave a comment down below. And in my next video, I can talk about a specific item. So if you really want to know about like an animated headline, for example, then I can definitely talk about that. But a lot of these are really not that that complicated, and they're very easy to do a lot of things. So shortcode is a really cool one on the bottom, just to talk about one more thing. And this is where you can add a lot of other tools and widgets. So if you have like a quiz, for example, and you get a plugin for a quiz, you can just click and drag shortcode and then just paste like the little shortcode. It's going to be like 15 characters. And then you'll have like a quiz or whatever other widget you want popping up in the middle of your website. So that's what our website's looking like right now. Let's just say we really like this right here, this section, and I want to use it on some other pages. So something really cool that Elementor does is it allows you to actually make a template. So let's right click on this and let's go to Save as Template. So we're going to save it to the template and we're going to call this email form. Email form, we're going to save it. And that is something that we have in our library now. So now that it's saved, let's just say somewhere else, if I was down here and I wanted to, maybe this was another page, we wanted to add something, we could click on just add another thing. Actually, sorry, we didn't want to do that. If we just click on the folder, we can go and check out My Templates. So if we go to My Templates and we search for email, you'll see email form right there. So we can insert this section very easily, import it, yes. And then it'll show up and we'll have another one. Of course, within the same page, you could also just duplicate it by doing that. But I'm just saying if you were on a different page and you wanted the same form, you could easily do that by importing the template, and you could always change it if you wanted to. So let's get rid of that because we don't need it. Click on the X icon. All right, now something else that we want to take note of here is with this website, yes, it looks pretty good as it is, but let's say we had a much longer page and we wanted to edit with maybe like options up here to scroll down to a certain location, or linking around to anchors is what I'm really talking about. And so starting off with just being on our website, because we're signed in, we can go up to the top and click Edit with Elementor just from being on the website, and it'll bring up the Elementor editor. So this is just something that you can edit any page you want very easily just by navigating around and then clicking on that. And then let's just add a little bit more content below here, and then I'll add some anchors and show you guys what I'm talking about. So let's go down here and just add, in this section here, let's just add a ton of text. How about that? Let's just say actually do an intersection. It's something I did not show you guys before. So an intersection is basically the same idea as doing this. See, this is just inherently two things, but this is a section within a section. So it just gives you a little more freedom to do, like have a title above it without having a separate section. So it's a very subtle difference there, but here you can see I can put a title above this and have a subsection right there within this main one, whereas otherwise if we did it the split one, you cannot have a title right above there. So in case you don't believe me, I'll show you. You can't put a title above one of them or the whole thing. It has to be over one or the other. So subtle difference there. But anyway, that's, what do they say? I digress. That's how the saying goes, right? So let's just go and copy this and just have a whole bunch of text here. Speed this up. Okay, so now we have all this text, and then down here, let's add something else. Let's add another single thing, and we want to maybe link down to this. So let's go back and add, maybe Google Maps would be cool to add right there, some Google Maps. And then let's duplicate this section and put it down below it again, so we have like a very long page. So let's say duplicate. And like I showed you guys before, if we click this and we drag it, so I'm scrolling, we're going to drag it below the maps. Now, sometimes they don't let you do that. Sometimes it gets weird and it's easier to drag things up. In this case it is. So click this and drag this up. And then we'll drop it right there, right between the two. And let's just say we want to have on the top a link to right here. We want it to scroll down to here. So what we would do is go over to the editor or to the little options. And if you scroll down, yes, there's a bunch of pro things, and we can talk about those in a second. But at the bottom, there should be anchor. And you should see anchor. There we go, menu anchor. So we'll click and drag a menu anchor right above the map. And you'll see it has a little gray, ugly spot. Now that won't actually show up on your website when you preview it, but let's just name this and let's just say anchor map. I don't know, map anchor, whatever, call it that. So then highlight that and copy that. So we'll need that. And then if we go up to where we want, let's say maybe this button, for example, we want it to link down there. So let's change this and say, or actually, let's add a button to the right of that. Let's see if we can add another button over here. And this is where an intersection would be nice. See, we have one thing there, we have text up here, and we want two sections there. So let's go and add an intersection so we can have two buttons side by side. So intersection, add that there. And then let's add this to the section on the left. If it's going to let us do that, put it in this one. And then let's duplicate that so we have a button in the right one as well. So click and drag this over to the right one. So that's what those intersections really are going to do there. So for this one, let's just say we want to say, let's see a map. Then for this, we can actually link to the anchor simply by saying the little pound sign, the little hash, whatever you want to call it, and then the name of the anchor, and that will link it down there. But if we were on a different page, what we'd want to do is have like the website, so whatever it is, your domain, yourdomain.com/page/ and then anchor, and that way it'll link to this page but also down below, so it'll link and scroll to exactly where you want. Obviously, since we're on the same page, we don't need to do that, so I'm going to delete that. And then just to show you guys what I'm talking about, let's preview changes, and you'll see we have a very long page. If I scroll, very, very long, but from the top, if we say let's see a map, you click on that and it scrolls down right where you wanted it to, so you can see the map and you can see whatever the next section is. It's something that I think is very useful. I've been using it a lot on many different websites, and so it's something that I definitely recommend checking out and working with. So, all right, so that is how you would add an anchor to this page. And now I think this page is very populated. It's probably everything I would really want to add, but I did talk before that I'd point out the differences between using Elementor Free and Pro. And so just to show you guys, you can add text and images and the heading, buttons and videos. The majority of the fundamentals of a website are all basic, so they're all available for free. But if you look at, so I can even collapse the Pro options, and you'll see this is what you're able to do if you only have the free one. So you have the general and you have the basic options, and for the most part, it does a lot of what you would really want it to do. So you can have sidebars and you can have HTML, you can add shortcodes for different little widgets like I talked about before. You can have toggle tabs, progress bar. I think the progress bar is pretty cool actually if you're having somebody go through maybe a quiz or maybe reading through some kind of something like that where they're learning along the way. You can have some progress or something, right? And it doesn't necessarily have to be progress. You could have that listed as anything. But that's really what you'll be doing without the Pro version. Now, the Pro version, like I said before, you do have a lot of benefits. So for example, I really do like being able to use all of these because they really bring your website to the next level. Having a form, for example, I think is very useful. Are there workarounds? Yes, you could get like Envato would have maybe forms, for example. And so for the most part, I still recommend getting Pro. I think that there are a lot of cool things, especially if you want to embed like social media. So maybe we want to have like a Facebook button to show up so people can go and like just check out, if you want to share it really quickly on Facebook or on YouTube, or if you just want to include your Facebook page on here and just show some of your feed, that's really cool. You can do that very easily. Now this is of course linked to the Envato or the Elementor Facebook page, but regardless, you get the idea. You just link out to yours. There's not really anything you have to set up. It just pulls from your page pretty easily. And so you're able to see like this is your Facebook page if you wanted to have that. It's kind of a weird aspect ratio here, but you get the idea. And now this page right here is pretty much ready to be published. Obviously very noisy. I would recommend adding a couple more blocks, kind of like this one, which is more text and pictures. But you know what? Hey, this is what we want to do for this page right here. So let's go and save that as a draft so I don't actually publish it. And something else I really want to show you guys how to do in Elementor, let's actually go back and make a post now. So it's uploading or it's saving. Now if we click on the little hamburger icon, we can change some other things about Elementor in general, the global settings, the default font, stuff like that. For the most part, I find that I don't use most of these. So let's exit to dashboard now and let's go and make another post. All right, so we have a page. Now the next thing we want to do is go to post, go to add new post, and you come to this. And we're just going to say this is a blog article. And you'll see that we have like a title and we can add some other things on the right side. We want tags, we want maybe an excerpt. So this is, and I'll show you why we can use that later on. So stuff like that. And then of course we can edit with Elementor, which is really what we want to do here. Now you could also just have your main body of your text. So if we want to add all of this, this is our whole, let's make that a little faster. So this is our blog article if we want to do that. So sometimes if you write the blog article, if you hire a writer, for example, and they just write it in maybe Google Docs or Microsoft Word, you could just copy and paste it to here and then say, you could either edit with Elementor or you could just say publish And if you have a template that I'm going to show you in a minute, then you can very easily just have this whole thing laid out in a template. So I can show you how to edit in Elementor here, but it's really going to be very similar to what we saw in the making a new page. So actually, I'll just click on that and show you guys what I mean. When you're editing a post, it's almost identical to editing a page. You have really the same set of tools on the left side, really the same editor on the right side. And so there's very little that actually changed with that. So if we go back to where we were, let's exit to the dashboard. And for this particular article, it's already in Elementor mode because I went to edit with Elementor. So we can always say back to WordPress editor. Let's say continue, and it'll bring us back to this. Now, it doesn't matter if you're in Elementor or in WordPress editing mode. You can add a template either way. And so if we go down to templates, we can just click on that. And I showed you before how we can get that individual little email form one, but there are also a lot of other ones as well. So if we just say add new, the thing about Elementor Pro is you have a lot of options here. So you can click the drop down menu and you can make a template for a page. So every time you make a new page, they look really similar. A pop-up if you want to have something that pops up in the middle of on your screen, obviously, to say, hey, subscribe to our newsletter or something. And I can touch on that later on in the video as well. But we can see headers, footers, singles, and archives. Let's go to single because a post is a single event, really. So we're going to go to post single, and we can either edit maybe a 404 page, another page, or a post. I'm going to do the post right now, and we're going to choose a name. So this is going to be sample template. And we're going to create a template. And from creating the template, we have a couple options here where we can look at templates that are, predetermined here, some suggested ones. So for example, this is a suggested one. We can look at some pages, which I don't really care that much about the pages, or we can actually look at my templates, so ones that I've used in the past that I've actually made. And so for the purposes of this video, let's go and get one that's already kind of made from Elementor, because it's one of the really cool things that Elementor offers. You'll see the little Pro icon, so you need to have Elementor Pro to get most of the ones that have Pro on the top at least. So if we go down and we say, you know what, I really like maybe like this one. Maybe I really like this one, for example. And it shows you what it's going to look like. So we can just click on Insert, and it's going to be inserted into this template right here. All right, so then we're going to click Yes, and it's going to import it to our template that we can then put on whatever post we want. All right, so here we are on the template, and you'll see that it shows up with the title on the top, the author image. It has like some things about, who wrote it. That's the author, the date, the comments that are on there, social media share, and we can edit. I'll show you how to edit all of this in a second. But the editor on the left side, if we go to the little grid icon, it shows you that for the most part down here, these are all very, very similar. But on the top, we have a couple new things that we can really add that are dynamic for when we're making a template for a single post. So for example, you'll see that we have the title, we have the author image, we've got the author, we've got the date and how many comments. We also have a social shares, and you can have post navigation. So maybe I'll add right below there, right below here, maybe post navigation. So somebody can say, let's see the next post or the previous post, if you have posts that are similar to whatever, similar to this one. And I think that's actually a good thing to add there, because I really don't like the steep angle right here. In fact, I really don't like this template appearance in general, but I'm just going to show you guys the tools we have here, regardless of what it looks like for now. So we can go up to this one and change how it looks again. And you'll notice that it is a little bit different of a section layout. So this section up here is really small and in the middle. So we have a very small area to work with. It's pretty common for a lot of posts. That's what you'd really be looking for. So some things we have is the post excerpt. So this is what I showed you before. So maybe at the top we want to have like the post excerpt showing up right before the text of the article. And you'll notice it doesn't matter what they show you right here. This is just going to be your most recently published article. So it's just gonna demo this template on the most recent article you released. But of course, it won't necessarily be applied to this one. It's going to be applied to whichever one you would like. So this is the excerpt, like I talked about in a second or previously. So that's why you'd want to have that there. And then if we go back, let's see what else we can add to this. You can add the featured image. So maybe the featured image of this post would be right there. This one is actually, the featured image is also right up there. This one doesn't have a featured image because with the other template, it looked better without a featured image. So we can right click on that and delete. And likewise with this, we can right click and we can delete that as well. And so it's looking a little bit better, but for the most part, like I said, I really just don't like the colors in the background of this. Of course, we could actually just change that, like I showed you guys before. And not to get too off topic here, but if we go to style, once you click on the little 6 dots right there, style, we can change the colors on the back. So maybe it'll fade to white, for example, and we can change the angle of this so it maybe just fades down into whatever's below it. So where are we? Go down to here, and let's change the location of this. Nope, wrong one. Let's bring the location of this up. There we go. So that might look, this is looking a little better, looking a little bit better. Let's change the angle again so it's a little more perpendicular. Can we just make that 180? 180. There we go. So okay, that's definitely looking a lot better now. And maybe this color, we want to make it more this color that we want. Okay, so that looks slightly better. Of course, you can always change where this is and change where this is as well. There we go. Okay, so maybe that's what we want on the top. Now, going back, we have a couple other things. We have the author box, which is right there. We've got table of contents. That's kind of generally something I like to add up top as well. So table of contents, we'll just kind of show them. It's a drop-down menu. You can hide it on mobile if you want. So you go to advanced and you can always go to responsive, like I said before, and you can hide any of these on mobile or tablet as well. So maybe on mobile, we don't want the table of contents. Very easy to do that as well. And then on top of that, we also have the post navigation, as I showed you there, and the post info, which I believe is what this is. So this is actually the author box up here. That's author. So that's how you could really easily do this. And as you go down to the bottom, you'll see obviously the whole article is right there. But below that, you can have things like you can have more social sharing right here. You can have a footer. You can have this, the subscribe to our newsletter idea is showing up right there. So that's a form. And then below that, you can adjust how the comments are going to show up. So just a really cool way you can actually set up your post, your template for that. So if we click on the up icon there, we can go to display conditions. So it doesn't just display on all posts. We probably don't want to do that. And instead we could just say the post that we just made. So I think it was like a sample post or something. I think I called it sample. So it's not released right now, but otherwise, oh, this is a blog article. That's what I called it. So we can go and save and close that, and it will be displayed on that new article and only on that new article. So if we say have a look, it'll show us what it's going to look like. But again, it's showing us on the wrong article here because this is still the example one. So if we go to the hamburger icon, say exit to dashboard, and then we go back up to check out that article. So if we go to posts and we go to all posts, we can go and check this out. So preview this, and it should be showing up. Here we go. So this is the article I was talking about. We have a whole bunch of dummy text here, and you can see how all you have to do then is just paste the title and paste the content in there. And then by default, you have a really nice looking article that is consistent with the same background on the top, the same social icons, and it really saves you a lot of time. If you just apply this, you could apply it to all, or you could apply it only to specific posts if you wanted to, or you could even do it by category. You have a lot of options with how you're actually applying the conditions for the templates of a single post. All right, so far in this video, we talked about how to make a block like this for a header. We talked about how to add images and text and buttons in different sections. We talked about some cool little things like some tabs right here. You can add lots of different things, and I showed you a lot of the other ones, but I didn't actually get into too many of them. We talked about customizing a form, as I think a lot of people will struggle with this. It's very important that you get that right. And then we talked about some other cool things down here. We also talked about how to make a template for a blog article, as you see right here, so that any blog can show up and have a really nice template for that. But we didn't talk about is actually how to have a pop-up like this. So this is something else that Elementor does really well. Pop-ups can be very effective because it requires action. People either leave your website, or more likely they are stuck between two decisions. Either click the X button right there, or do what you actually ask them to do, such as maybe download your whatever PDF or something, right? So you have a couple options there, but let's actually go and talk about how you can make that and apply it to different pages and have different triggers. So it's really interesting. Pop-ups are very powerful, and the good thing is they're very easy to make, much like the template we saw for the blog article. So if we go down to templates, we can go to pop-ups. Okay, so we're going to click on add new pop-up, and we're going to name this. We're going to say the new pop-up, pop-up, and we're going to create a template. And we have some options here when we create the template. There are some that we can choose from that are kind of pre-made already, or we can just choose one just to go completely blank if we wanted. So for the purposes of this, let's actually choose one that we like. So this is the one I just showed you guys in that little example. I just kind of put it on there just to show you guys what a pop-up would look like, what you'd expect it to look like. So let's go and choose. How about this one right here? Maybe just something to maybe have a form that we want somebody to maybe sign up for an email list. Let's say that's the primary goal of this campaign. So we're going to go and insert that, and it's going to take probably about a minute or two until we're ready to go. And so this is what the pop-up is going to look like. We can change where its location is. So right now it's just going to be right in the middle. And we can change, I like that animation there. That actually looks pretty good. And so we have some options with how we want to, if we just want to use this one, there's some basic editing we can do. So maybe I don't like that radius on the top. So we can just go and check these out and see what kind of things we have. We have a picture in the background. Maybe we should change that picture. And maybe again, we'll just use that Philly picture. Maybe we want to use a nice Philly nightscape and change. We can change the location of this as well. So custom is what they have right now. Let's say center, center is what I want. Where is that? Center. So that looks decent enough for now. So that's how it's going to pop up. Or actually, we could always just go to custom as well. So the X position here, we can slide it. And then in the Y position, we can also move that up and down until we get just the right part of the picture that we think we really want. So maybe right around there. And then we can also change maybe this little thing down here. Or actually, I really don't like how big that radius on there is on there. So we can go to, I believe, border is where that would be. So let's go and check out if the border, yeah, 150 pixel radius is pretty large on there. Let's go and change it down to 75. Looks decent enough for this, although they don't have any content right there, so maybe that's why they had such a large radius. So we could bring that back to 150 just for the purposes of this, see if it looks good. They also have a shadow in the background as well, so you could change that if you really wanted to. I'm going to leave it in there. I think it looks pretty good. So let's go and edit this one right here. So now we can actually, of course, another thing with this is you can actually add tons of other stuff. So if we wanted to have maybe like an icon, we could just click and drag that right here. And we could put whatever icon we want. So icon library. I don't know, maybe if we can find like, what other icons are there? Is there like a smiley face or something? Theater, yeah. We could just filter by name. So smile. Yeah, there we go. Let's get a big old smiley face there. Let's get this one. So a nice big smiley face. And we can change the size of that. So with the view, center. Okay, that's what we want. We want the nice smiley face right there. But you get the idea, guys. You can put different things on here, and you can always remove them as well and say, you know what, I really don't like that. Or you say, I like it a lot. I want another one of them. So you can have two smiley faces. And so for my pop-up, maybe I just really want two smiley faces. Now with this over here, let's actually edit this. So we're going to click on this right here, and we can actually change the background of this section. We can change what it says. So free PDF. And then we can go and change the form if we want. We want to edit that, so we can say name and email. We can choose what happens after that, so they can email. So after submit, maybe it's going to send an email to us, for example. And then, of course, we do also have some additional options. I should have mentioned this before, but you can have some custom messages. So once they actually submit their thing, you could say the form was sent successfully or an error occurred. That's kind of nice to have those and be able to customize those if you want something else showing up there. But that's really what you'll be doing here. So if we go down, this is an inner section here, it's an inner section. So it's a section within a section, not like crossroads or something. It's like a section within a section. But if we go to style, we can change the background of this, and maybe this, we just want it to be a lighter blue. So I think this works a little better, and we can always change the transparency as well. So down here, it's fully opaque. Let's bring it back a little bit to maybe like right there. So that could be a decent pop-up. Actually, I'm going to get rid of these smiley faces. They were fun at the time, but we don't need them. So we can go and delete them, and then right-click and delete that as well. And so this is our pop-up that maybe we like this one. If we go back to see if there's anything else we want to add, maybe the free PDF, we could have maybe an image. Maybe an image would be good on the right side, or maybe an overlay would be good on this background. So if we go to the 6 icons or 6 dots there to change this, we can go to style, and behind this we can actually have a background overlay. Sorry. And so we can actually change the background overlay again to maybe make a gradient between like dark blue and red. Maybe that looks, actually it doesn't look too bad, to be honest. So maybe that's what we want. And so let's just do that right there. And if we go up, we can change this to position is going to be custom. Attachment is going to be fixed. So if somebody scrolls, which they're not, it's a pop-up. So I'm going to undo that. Let's go to default. That's what we had. We don't want it to be a moving one because it is a pop-up. But overall, that's really what we want to do right here. And of course, I think we should be able to go up and edit the section. Let's change the layout of this. If we want to change the size of it, we could change the height to be maybe a little bit taller. And we can maybe change like the position of it to be, instead of the bottom, maybe in the middle. So that's going to be the content position. So we want to go back to bottom. That's what we want. And we can change like the content width. Maybe if we want a wider in the middle, we could do that. Okay, so that's how it's going to pop up. We can see what it looks like, honestly, on tablet. It's very important. It looks decent there. And then on mobile as well. To be honest, it's not necessarily like the best looking pop-up. I think that the radius is kind of weird. But regardless, maybe that's a decent enough thing for what you're looking to do. So what we can do then, once we have this fully edited and customized, and again, like I said, you have tons and tons of different options for how you can just completely customize this in any way you want. Then you can actually go down here and before you publish, go up and set the display conditions. And so I'm going to go through this a little bit slowly because there are a lot of options, and it is important that you get this right, or else you're going to be frustrated that your pop-up just never shows up. So starting off with the conditions, this is what pages it's going to be showing up on. And so you could do it on your entire site. You could do it on a singular one or an archive if you wanted. And so you could say any singular one, or you could just say maybe a post in a specific category, or just a post in a certain format, post by a certain author, or just in this case, just posts. And so for which post I want to do it on, I'm going to have it appear on the new article we just made called This is a Blog Article. So this is a blog article. We are going to say next, and that is the first condition. Of course, actually, if we go back, you could add other conditions as well and have it show up on different posts. If you want to have multiple posts, you could very easily do that. The 404 page, for example, you could have a pop-up. I mean, that's kind of a weird spot to have a pop-up, but maybe that's what you want to do. And so you have options there for what conditions you want to set. Mess around with that. Make sure you find something that makes sense for you, whether it's single post or the entire site or whatever it might be. And then let's click next. And within this, we have triggers. And triggers are going to be on these pages what is going to make the pop-up appear. And so we could say when the page loads, just pop it up immediately. It doesn't have to be immediately either. It could be a timed pop-up. We could have it when they scroll down to a certain level. We could have scroll to an element. We could have when they click after a certain amount of inactivity, or it could be on exit, page exit intent. So when they move their mouse up to the top, you could say, wait, we have a discount for you or something, right? And that's something that BlueHost does that, for example. If you go to checkout, they'll give you a discount if you almost click the the exit intent right there. So I'm not going to do that. Instead, let's just say we want to have it on page load. So if we do that, we can wait maybe 2 seconds, for example, and then have it pop up. And if we say next, we have some advanced rules we want. So we can have maybe not on the first page, first time they visit us. Maybe it's when they arrive from a certain different page, or you can hide it from users who are logged in. If you're trying to get them to log in and they already are logged in, then it doesn't make sense to show it to people who are logged into your website. So you have some really cool advanced options here to really make sure it's showing up to exactly the user you want at the exact right time. So I'm going to save and close this. And it is showing up on this blog article. So if I reload this, I believe it should be showing up after just a couple seconds. So there we go. Waited 2 seconds, and then it showed up. And it was weird that it slid in like that because it showed a scroll bar on the right side. I really don't like that. But you know what? Honestly, it's doing exactly what we want it to do. Somebody can type in their name and their email, and they can click send, and they can get like a free PDF. If this is connected to maybe MailChimp, for example, would be something I would recommend. And I actually have a full tutorial on that if you guys want to have people sign up through an API here and then have that, an instant response where they get an email with a PDF attached to it. That would probably be a good way to do this. So you collect the email address, in exchange you give them some kind of free demo or PDF or ebook or something like that. It's a good way to do that with MailChimp. Or, of course, we could just X out of it on the top right. So let's go and do that. And then we're back to the user experience.